I realized it in my mind. It was like, it clicked on me that these people have dragged me. So I told them that I'm coming. I ran to my roommate. I told him that he should call the police. I ran downstairs and then I went into a club and I asked them for help. And it's all here in the doctor's report.
In the year 2013, I picked up my bag. I was a very young kid in growing up in Nigeria who knew nothing about the outside world. And one day I picked up my bag and decided I was going to go far away from home, far away from Nigeria, far away from my parents, from my family, and move down to one of the farthest countries in the world, which is China, to study. I mean, during this period, I really didn't understand the concept of, moving far away, because I've lived a bunch of my life in boarding school. So that idea of perhaps being alone is something I've been used to over the years. And of course, moving to a very new country was a really big blow, because initially you think, oh, it's a modern country, it's a place that is quite different, and it's a place where I get a lot of opportunities. But when you land there, and then considering you've traveled almost 2 days before getting to your location, you'd actually realize what you've done. You've moved away from where you get your shelter. You've moved away from where you get the love. You moved away from where you get all the protection that you've had since childhood, and now you're on your own, basically. I mean, so many people, not just myself, hundreds and thousands of young kids, 18, 19-year-old, would normally go through the same route, thinking if I'm able to move away from my country to go halfway around the world, I'll probably get better opportunities. I mean, there are stories, a lot of stories regarding this, but none of these stories are come up on the internet and we see something really tragic happening. I mean, some would have ended up tragically, but then not really trending on the internet. But this particular story, which is a very young guy, Nana Agie, a very young 18-year-old. I was just about the same age when I traveled to China to study there. This guy traveled to Latvia in 2024, and then it turned out by 2025, he will no longer be alive because some idiots in Latvia, and I'll be talking about this in a couple hours. Countries like Latvia, so many countries in the world, some of these countries who believe, or some of the people of some of these countries who believe they are much better than black people, and they think black people are animals and they can treat black people the way they want. Before the end of this video, I'll be mentioning these countries, and I will be giving you guys a very stern warning of why you should never send your kids to any of these very ridiculous, stupid countries. I'm going to use the word stupid today because I'm really pissed off seeing this story. Now, this young guy, he was 18 years old in 2024. He moved to Latvia to study engineering in a very stupid school called Riga Technical University. I mean, we can see pictures of the school on Google. I mean, so many of these schools, they will look very nice online. But when you get there, you realize they are ridiculous schools. You see very nice pictures of them. You see very nice picture of the very stupid school who couldn't protect this guy. So, I mean, I need to give you guys a breakdown of everything that happened. And so we can discuss this because it's a really sad story. And like I said, it resonates with me a lot considering I took the same journey. I moved far away from my family at about the same age. According to stories, he's 18 years old, but something he might be in his early 20s. He's a Ghanaian and he went to the stupid school we're talking about, which is Riga Technical Uni. Now, the location of location of death was in Riga, Latvia, and it happened in June the 4th, 2025. I mean, on actually seeing this story, I was quite surprised that this happened a couple of months ago, more than almost 6 months ago now, and we're actually just hearing about this story. It's becoming just popular after it happened 6 months ago. It shows how belittling people take the life of very young black people at this point. Because this happened in June and it's just trending now. Now, he was enrolled in this school in July 2024, like I said, and within a year, he will no longer be alive. Now, let's talk about the timeline of this event. In July 2024, he made a decision that he was going to go to Latvia to study. And like every other student, the idea was to move abroad and to get more opportunities, to progress in life, to have more education, and perhaps thinking Latvia being in a European country, because this is a lot of misconception. A lot of people in Africa, a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Ghanaians, West Africans tend to make thinking being a European country, being a country where you've got a lot of so-called white people, you'd expect those countries to be more modern, those countries to be more civilized. But then I'll give you a shocker. Some of these countries are some of the most savage countries you'd have on earth. They are some of the countries where you get the people with the lowest IQ, the people with some of the most savage mindset, the people who hate black people. I mean, literally, they dislike people who look like you. So talking about his life in Latvia, he's lived in a student accommodation, reportedly in a place in Riga. And this particular area I was living in has no major documentation of something really serious happened before, what have you. However, by June 2025, which is few days before he was no longer alive, 3 days before his death, the family says Nana Age, the guy, sent a voice note claiming he'd been poisoned by 2 people. I mean, this breakdown would not give a total story of what has happened, but I'm just making it so you guys can see it visually while I'm telling the story. So now, before this happened, this guy said he made friends with some of his classmates, because apparently he's someone who's very close with his parents or is very close with his family. So anything that happens in school, he tells his family member. So according to what happened with these idiots who poisoned him, he said they were his classmates. They were people he shares the same class with. And few months before this particular episode happened, he's met them in class. They spoke to him. They were trying to be friendly. And of course, when you're in a country like this, you try to be friendly with people who are locals. So because of that, he became friends with them. And he said he never had any real reason not to be friends with them, because they were young people like himself and they were in his class. So basically, this particular set of people were people he knew and people that were his friends. Now, he said these guys had invited him to their house. This guy had invited him to their own place of habitation, which probably is one of their hostels or someone's house, but he had gone to meet one of these guys where they live. And then after a period of time, they were together having fun and all that, and then they gave him a couple of drinks, which he decided without hesitation to drink. Now, he started complaining that he didn't feel right after he got this drink. He didn't feel right. He felt something was wrong. And then this guy decided, being a very, very smart guy, decided, since I don't feel right, perhaps I had been poisoned. And then he took himself straight to the hospital, where it was actually confirmed that he's been poisoned. So then that was the period when he had sent this voice note to his family back in Ghana, explaining the whole situation. Now, after he had sent this voice note, which was on the June the 1st to his family, explaining the whole course of events, what has happened, by June the 4th, Latvian authorities reported that this very young man fell from the 6th floor of his apartment or building and he died. That's basically the report. I mean, countries like this, we know they are some of the most extremely corrupt countries. People say, okay, African countries are corrupt and what have you. These countries, they take the cake in wicked corruption. They are the kind of countries where they cover up some of the most dangerous things on earth and they just really don't care about human life, basically. They do what they want. And I mean, thinking about what could have happened to an 18-year-old guy, and then a particular authority decides to cover it up. Now, the official account suggests the deaths resulted from the fall, but then the details were limited. Now, this is what happens when you find yourself in very ridiculous countries like this. They come up with an idea. Most deaths that they want to cover up always ends up as a suicide. They always call it a suicide. And then you see there is no proof that this is suicide. There is no investigation whatsoever. They just close the case because they assume it's suicide. Now, as regards this very young man, there is no single history of mental health illness. He's never had any documentation of any mental health illness. He's never been someone who's been depressed. I mean, depression as we know it is never had that. His family doesn't have any record of him showing any sign of depression. He never mentioned anything like that on the voice notes. And like everyone we said, so many Africans, you're suffering, but you're also smiling. So basically, this guy never showed any sign that he's possibly going to take his life. But then the Latvian idiots, authorities, are saying he fell from the 6th floor of his apartment, and that is how he died. Now, the question is, let's say for real, this guy fell from the 6th floor of the building. Could he have been pushed? Let's say this is actually true. Could he have been pushed? Where are the CCTVs? Where are the cameras? Or is the country so bad that you've got no cameras around a student apartment? None at all. Now, the provisional report said he died after falling from a building. The police reportedly viewed the case as an accident, and they believe it's unclear. I mean, how coincidental can this be when a guy who's been poisoned 2 days before now suddenly fell to his own death out of depression? Now, like I said, before we end the video, because this is a very sad story, and I'm finding it very hard to actually even comprehend that this whole thing has happened. I want to talk about countries that you want to avoid if you're a black person. And this is not racist in any way, because sometimes in our days, it can be racist to call people racist. But I'll tell you, this is not being racist. I'm just saying you can decide to go. The same way the American government says don't go to these same countries, the same way I will be giving you my own little bit of warning. I mean, reading online, reading a lot, and having personal experiences, these countries are countries that really do not like your face, that do not like your melanin if you're a black individual. Now, let's talk about these countries. This is Google Map, because I love my Google Map when I'm showing this whole thing. Now, there is a region of the world called the Balkans. They are called the Balkans for a reason, because some of these people can be bastards. They are called the Balkans for different reasons, but one of the reasons is some of them can be bastards. Now, this region is basically any region outside Western Europe that is not Eastern Europe, basically. Some of them are Eastern Europe, but any part of the Western that is not the Eastern Europe. You see them, they have a similar look. People from the Balkans, they have a similar look. Now, a region that includes Bosnia, these countries, Bosnia, I think Croatia is one of them, Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, all these areas, Greece. I once had a guy, a white guy, a British guy, who told me people in Greece have a name for black people that is extremely racist. This guy told me, he said they are one of the regions that hates black people the most, which is, I mean, it's one of the ridiculous things to hate people just because of their race, of their skin color. We've got areas like Bulgaria, Romania. Like Bulgaria, you've got Romania, Moldova. I think that excludes Ukraine. So basically the regions I've mentioned, I've got a picture that shows this country. So Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, all these countries on this list, they are countries you want to avoid. Apparently, I think Turkey is a little bit more nice to people, because I've got a lot of friends who were once in Turkey, and even though the experience wasn't perfect, but the experience was decent. But these other countries, I would advise you to avoid or be careful not sending an 18-year-old or a 16-year-old to these countries for the sake of studying, because they are quite dangerous. Now, we can talk about the eastern part of Europe too. The eastern part of Europe, because the country where this had happened to this young kid isn't a Balkan country. It is an Eastern European country. Now, the country is this country, Latvia. Latvia is quite a very small country. They were one of those countries that were under the USSR, and they were a very communist country. And also with the communism, some of these countries are extremely racist. Now, we've got Latvia, we've got Estonia, we've got Lithuania, we've got Belarus, we've got Ukraine, and perhaps Russia. Like I said, this doesn't cover all these countries. This doesn't say all these countries are racist, but then you're not going to be sending a 16-year-old to these countries to have a very bad experience, because this messes up with their lives. I mean, the experience affects their self-esteem to the end of their lives, basically. So now, this is what I think about this. This is a very sad story. Rest in peace to this very young man, a very bright guy, a guy who perhaps is looking for more opportunities, but some idiots, some guys with very low IQ who he thinks are his friends, decided that he doesn't deserve to live. Rest in peace to this very young man. You guys tell me what you think about this whole story in the comment section below. And I hope to see you guys another time. Peace.